You are listening to the Keep the Weight Off podcast with Dr. Angela, episode number 94.
Welcome to the Keep the Weight Off podcast, where we bust all the dieting myths and discover not just how to lose weight, but more importantly, how to keep it off. We go way beyond the food, and we use science and psychology to give you strategies that work. And now your host, Dr. Angela Zechmann.
Well, hello, friends, and hey, Marchelle, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm super good. You know what? Like, Christmas is in a few days.
I know.
It's just a few days away. And you know what? Right after Christmas, on December 27th, we're going to start our 4-day challenge.
Oh, I'm so excited about that.
I am super excited because these are so much fun. So I'm calling it Dr. Angela's Belly Buster Challenge. What do you think of that?
I think that's an awesome name.
How to bust your belly, because that's the problem, right? So
don't we all need that? I need that.
I know.
I need that in my life. I'm going to do it. I'm so excited about it.
Yeah. So I decided to call it the Belly Buster Challenge because a few weeks ago, we did a podcast on visceral fat. Remember that one?
Yes, I do.
Visceral fat is belly fat. And that was in response to a question that we always get from our patients and our online students. They're like, how do I get rid of this belly fat? Like, I have tried everything and nothing works. Sit-ups don't help. I've been doing all kinds of calorie restriction. I've been exercising like a maniac and nothing seems to help. And then, you know, as people get older, they notice that it gets harder and harder. So this challenge is going to teach you about belly fat, and it's going to give you a head start. Like, if you're thinking about losing some weight in the new year, I'm going to be teaching you specifically all about belly fat and how to get rid of it. Doesn't that sound awesome?
Yeah, if you're going to lose weight, let it be belly fat.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. I want to lose the belly fat. I'm so excited about this. As a matter of fact, I've been telling everybody at the clinic, all the patients, I've been challenging them to do the challenge with me. I think the word challenge is my love language. Like when I hear so I'm super competitive in that way. So when you made it a challenge, I'm like, I'm down. I'm ready. I'm down.
I love it.
I can't wait.
That's great. I know. Well, you know what's interesting is that I've always told our patients from day one, and this is before you even ever started working at the clinic. Like, I don't know, I think I opened the clinic in 2007 or something.
Yeah.
And I've always told them from day one, you know, if you have to go buy a new bra, I'm happy for you. But if you have to buy new pants because your pants are getting loose in the waist, that's what I really care about. Right? And that's because we understand how important that belly fat is. All I care about is that you're shrinking your waist. And if your boobs stay the same, if your hips stay the same, I don't care. I want that waist shrinking. So that's what we're always needing to celebrate. And so why is that? It's because that visceral fat, when that goes away, that's an indicator that your body's metabolism is getting healthier. And I'm going to explain all of this. But that means you're going to live a longer, happier, healthier, disease-free life, right? And why is that? Well, it's because the belly fat is the dangerous fat. So there's normal fat, which is just the fat that's right under the skin. That's annoying, but it's not really dangerous. And then there's the belly fat, which is also called visceral fat or omental fat. And that's the fat that's actually killing us from the inside out. That's the way I like to put it, because it's really, really dangerous. It's ruining our metabolism. It's raising our risk for heart disease and stroke and diabetes and cancer. And as it turns out, these are all metabolic diseases, right?
Yeah, yuck, visceral fat. Ugh.
Exactly. So,
it's all bad.
So I titled this podcast, What is Cardiometabolic Health? Because I want all of my listeners to care about their cardiometabolic health. Seriously.
It sounds so scientific.
It does, I know. So figure out how you're doing with your cardiometabolic health. And why is this? Well, it's interesting because I just came across an article that was published in July in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology. So if you don't already know what cardiology is the study of the heart. but it also includes the blood vessels. So cardiologists deal with diseases of the heart and the blood vessels. Sometimes they help people reduce their stroke risk, that sort of thing. So this particular research journal is one of the journals in which research is published on subjects dealing with the heart and blood vessels. Okay? So I don't know if you know this, but diseases of the heart and blood vessels are the number one killers of Americans of both sexes and all races. It's really remarkable. Cardiovascular disease is rampant in my family. So like my mother had cardiovascular disease. She had heart disease beginning at the age of 57. So she was younger than I am now when she started developing heart disease. She recently died of a stroke. My father had cardiovascular disease. So, it's rampant in my family. Do you have any cardiovascular disease in your family, Marchelle?
Fortunately, I don't think so.
Wow,
I think,
that's awesome.
Yeah, our family dies of other things, like mostly alcoholism.
Yeah, shoot.
But
well.
no, but I do know. Quite a few of our patients suffer from cardiovascular diseases.
They do,
and they come in, just really suffering and.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or they've had family members that have died of cardiovascular disease, and they start to get really worried because they're like, I'm not that far behind them.
Yeah, right. Right.
So what we're starting to understand now is that cardiovascular disease actually begins in your teens and 20s.
What?
So they've done autopsies on, I want to say kids because they're young men who've died in the war, and they've already discovered that they're developing cardiovascular disease. They're seeing plaque buildup in the artery walls in young kids. And I'm sure it's just gotten worse.
So when I was younger, I just thought that cardiovascular disease was just from smoking. So does cardiovascular disease, does it exist a lot in people who don't smoke as well?
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. So smoking puts you at very high risk for cardiovascular disease, as well as, the obvious lung diseases and lung cancer and all of that.
Okay.
But it's not the only thing that puts you at risk for cardiovascular disease, because you would think that now that so many fewer people are smoking, that the cardiovascular disease rates would go down, but they haven't gone down. They've actually gone up.
Okay. Well, shoot.
Yeah.
That must have to do with our food then, processed food.
Probably, I would think. Yeah.
Yep.
So when we're talking about cardiometabolic health, we're talking about the health of the heart and the blood vessels. And so we need to be paying attention to that, given that it's the number one killer of Americans, right?
Right.
So this was a super interesting study because they looked at a nationally representative sample of 55,000 people. It's a lot of people, aged 20 and older, between 1999 and 2018. So every year, this is a huge study that's done every year. It's called NHANES, NHANES, which stands for the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey. So they just randomly select 55,000 people ages 20 and older every year. And this is a huge undertaking, okay? But the results are incredible. And they ask them all kinds of questions. And the questions that this study focused on had to do with cardiometabolic health, okay? And the results of this study were really, really alarming, because what they discovered is that in 2018, only 1 in 15 American adults had a healthy score on all 5 indicators of cardiometabolic health. 1 in 15.
Jeez.
That's less than 7% of American adults who are healthy from a cardiometabolic standpoint. The other 93% of people, it's actually a little higher than 93 because it's not quite 7%. So the other 93% of people are at high risk for a heart attack or a stroke or some other disease of the cardiovascular system. I found this absolutely shocking. I was just like, I know the numbers are high. I deal with this all day, every day, but I had no idea that it was like a 1 in 15 that was healthy and 14 14 and 15 people are not healthy. So
Jeez.
just think about 15 people that you know and include yourself. Which one do you think is at the lowest risk?
I want that one to be me.
Exactly. Exactly. So the study's lead author was a PhD candidate called Megan O'Hearn. And she said, I'm quoting her directly. She said, "These numbers are striking. It's deeply problematic that in the United States, one of the wealthiest nations in the world, fewer than 1 in 15 adults have optimal cardiometabolic health." And then she went on to say, "We need a complete overhaul of our healthcare system, our food system, and our built environment, because this is a crisis for everyone, not just one segment of the population."
Yeah, it's a tall order.
Yeah. And this was all before the pandemic. Like, we don't have any of the information from the 2019, 2020, 2021 survey yet, right?
Right.
So I'm sure it got worse during the pandemic. So, because for a lot of people, there was significant weight gain during the pandemic that would increase their cardiometabolic risk. The study was interesting because it also showed that there were large disparities depending on sex, depending on age, depending on which race you belong to, depending on which ethnicity. So like if you're Hispanic or not Hispanic, how high of an education level you had. So like they correlated all of that and they separated all of that out. So for example, adults with less education were half as likely to have optimal cardiometabolic health, which means only 1 in 30 of people with less education were healthy, right?
Jeez.
Compared to adults with more education. And Mexican Americans were 2/3 less likely than non-Hispanic white adults to have optimal cardiometabolic health. So they're at super duper high risk. So Dr. O'Hearn said, "A large portion of the population is at a critical inflection point. Identifying these individuals and addressing their health conditions and lifestyle early is critical to reducing growing healthcare burdens and health inequalities." So does that make sense, Marchelle? Like, that's a lot of heavy words.
Yeah, I'd like to know a little more information about that because I wonder, like, why is that? Like, do you know why? Does this have to do with, just their ability, in this population to eat better food or?
Yeah, I think so.
Wow.
I mean, there's a whole field called social determinants of health, meaning how does your socioeconomic status and your education level and your race and your ethnicity affect your health? And there are big differences in health effects among people who are in minority and have lower education levels and all of that. So yeah, part of it is, I mean, for some people, just getting access to healthy food or being able to afford healthy food is really, really difficult because in our country, this isn't true in all countries, but in our country, trying to buy nourishing whole foods costs a lot more money than just buying crap. Like think about,
Right.
the standard like poor college kid fare is ramen noodles and they just eat ramen noodles all day. Like that's really cheap and really unhealthy. So when I was in college, that's kind of the stuff I ate, and I would eat, I would go out for fast food all the time and stuff like that. So
yeah, this is the kind of stuff that we talk about that starts getting me pissed off though.
I know.
Just like that's a huge thing to think about.
Yeah.
That depending on your education and your socioeconomic status, you don't have the right kinds of foods available to you. No, that's something to think about.
You don't necessarily have a grocery store that you can get to. There's convenience stores, but there's not grocery stores.
In America.
And lots of fast food places nearby.
Yeah. That's a whole other topic we can talk about for days.
It's a whole other topic. Well, but, some of our podcast listeners might not know it, but I have a master's in public health. And so
you do.
We've known for a very long time that cardiovascular disease is a killer. And when I first started out in public health, we were super concerned about smoking. And those of us in the public health world are really proud of our efforts to get people to quit smoking. But now we have other types of factors that are contributing to this. So Are you curious, Marchelle, what the 5 indicators of cardiometabolic risk are that they were measuring in the study participants?
I was actually just going to ask you that with the very beginning of the podcast.
Like what were they measuring? How do you know if somebody's at risk or not?
Yeah.
So here are the 5 indicators of cardiometabolic risk. And each person listening to this, I want you to listen carefully and I want you to ask yourself, how would you rank yourself on this indicator? Or do you even know where you rank on this indicator? Okay. So the first indicator of cardiometabolic risk is elevated blood pressure. So this is 140 over 90 is considered high blood pressure or higher. Or if you need blood pressure medications to keep it down, you're considered somebody with controlled hypertension. So that's one risk factor. So you want to make sure that your blood pressure is well controlled. The next one is blood cholesterol elevations. The next one is blood sugar elevation. The next one is having the disease of obesity as indicated by abnormal weight gain and elevated body mass index or body fat percentage. And then the presence of known cardiovascular disease. So if you've already had a heart attack or a stroke. Okay. So those are the 5 indicators of cardiometabolic risk that they were measuring. And remember, only 1 in 15 adults aged 20 or more in the United States was negative on all of those, right? So everybody, all the other 14 out of 15 people had at least one of these things that put them at high risk. And what's also interesting is that the researchers discovered that between 1999 and 2018, these indicators got progressively worse with shocking speed. So if you were to looked at the numbers in 1999, they were much, much less. And I really wasn't surprised because I've seen obesity rates skyrocket just in the last 10 years. It's been incredible just to watch how it skyrocketed and how younger and younger and younger people are affected. So if you're a regular listener to this podcast, you probably have some idea what's causing all of this disease. What do you think, Marchelle?
Do.
Yeah.
Processed
You're a regular
foods.
listener. Yes. The toxic standard American diet, processed foods. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So I want everyone listening to this podcast to do anything and everything that they can so that they can live a long, happy, healthy life. I don't want any of us having a heart attack or having to deal with high blood pressure and diabetes and cancer and all of these other metabolic diseases. I want all of us to live healthy, active lives well into our 90s and die peacefully in our sleep at a ripe old age. Doesn't that sound like an awesome life?
Yeah, that does sound like an awesome life. And it's not too, I've had a few of these indicators in the past, and I've worked really hard and to eliminate the 2 or 3 indicators that I've had. So it's never too late. You can turn this around because sure. I've eliminated this. So it's once you have this, it doesn't mean okay, the game over. It's you can turn this stuff around. So
you can,
it's never too late.
It's never too late. And I actually think each one of us should know exactly what our indicators are. Okay.
Yes,
for example, we should each know what our blood pressure is and be doing everything we can to reduce it if it's high. We should each know what our fasting blood sugar and our hemoglobin A1C are. And if you don't know, the A1C is a measure of your 3-month average blood sugar. And if your A1C is 5.7 or higher, you're at risk. And if it's 6.5 and above, you have diabetes. So.
Okay. So I have a question.
Yeah.
So do doctors regularly check for these indicators? Did they do these blood tests on a regular basis? If you haven't had that, what do you do?
So doctors always check your blood pressure. When you get a metabolic panel, they will check your fasting blood sugar. They don't all check the A1C. As a matter of fact, I'm actually kind of surprised that they're not routinely checking the A1C.
Can you ask for it?
You can. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You can always ask for it. Yeah. So that's a good one to know. If you know your A1C, it should be less than 5.7. So, and I think that if people went in and regularly asked their doctors for an A1C, we would be diagnosing a lot more diabetes because there's a lot of people walking around who are diabetic and have no idea because nobody ever checks their A1C. So there you go. So you should know what your blood pressure is. You should know what your fasting blood sugar and your A1C are. You should do everything you can to reduce visceral fat because that's what puts you at risk, which is why we're doing the Belly Buster Challenge. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. You should know what your cholesterol levels are looking like. Okay. HDL cholesterol is protective. And many people are walking around with low levels of HDL. It should be 50 or higher. And it's interesting because the labs don't report it as being too low until it's less than 40. And I'm like, who's not flagging this? It should be over 50, So your HDL should be over 50. LDL cholesterol can get a little bit complex to try to quantify risk. And you might want to get an advanced cholesterol test done because your LDL can be high and you not be at risk. But if you've got a parent or a sibling who's had cardiovascular disease, like a heart attack or a stroke, I would recommend that you get an advanced cholesterol test done. And I did an entire podcast last year on cholesterol, so I'm not going to go into all of that now, but just go to journeybeyondweightloss.com /blog/30 because it's podcast number 30. And we'll put a link in the show notes for you if you want to listen to that. So all of this is really, really important if you already know you have cardiovascular disease. So like if you already had a heart attack or stroke, making sure that you get all of these other indicators in really good shape is super, super important for you. And I really think, that the most important thing that we can do as individuals is to let go of processed food. It's like breaking up with junk food so that we can shrink the belly fat and get healthy again. It's shocking what can happen when we learn to nourish our bodies with whole, unprocessed food. They say food is medicine. Have you heard that before, Marchelle?
Yeah, I've heard it from you.
Yeah, food is medicine. And that's what I'm talking about. So the purpose of the Dr. Angela's Belly Buster Challenge that I'm having December 27th through December 30th is to get you prepared, to get you started on your journey back to health, to show you how it is that visceral fat forms and what visceral fat does, and show you how to get rid of it and how to prepare yourself so that you will be successful. Too many people just go on these really strict, rigid diets and they do it for a week and then they're like, oh, geez, this is awful. Like, I can't do this. And then they quit and then they go back to eating junk. So I want you thriving in a healthy, vibrant body that you're proud of well into your 90s. And I want everyone listening to this podcast to be one of the 15 Americans at low risk for cardiovascular disease, right? Doesn't matter how old you are or how long you've been struggling, you can get rid of belly fat.
Yeah, I wanted to just add something really quick too, because, if you're listening to this and you're like, I've done this before, like me, like sometimes, I feel like, okay, well, I've done this before. And then, I got off track and, is there something wrong with me? Or, I talk about that kind of stuff. You know how we, talk about that shit in our head, like, oh, you didn't do it right. It's not perfect. Well, just do it again. Do it again with me. Like, I'm going to do it again and I'm going to keep doing it and I'm going to keep doing it. And then if I get off track, I'm going to do it again. Yep. So don't worry if you've tried something before, you've tried all the diets or you've tried, this or that, just try this again or try it for the first time because, you just never give up trying. That's what I'm trying to say.
That's exactly it. Yeah. Well, it's interesting because if you think about junk food in the same way you think about smoking, do you know how many times people try to quit smoking before they're finally successful?
Oh my gosh, I've done it. Been there. I mean, I'm a non-smoker now, but I've done it. I quit. Like, I don't even know how many times that, I tried and went back but now I'm smoke free and I've been for quite a while. So,
the last statistic I remember is the average smoker tries to quit 6 times before they become successful.
Oh, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah. At least.
And so I think you have to give yourself grace with quitting junk food too. Because right now, junk food is socially acceptable. The more that smoking became socially unacceptable and the more taxed it was, and the more, sort of like, oh, you're a smoker, and so people would kind of get judged for being smokers. And so there was a social norms around being a non-smoker. Well, that's not true yet for junk food. So you don't have society helping you in the junk food piece. So quitting junk food can be a real challenge. And so I don't want I want to support you. I don't want to make it any harder. So, if you've quit junk food before and now you're ready to quit junk food again, don't feel badly about it. It's perfectly fine. So just got to break up with it.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. So this challenge is going to be a ton of fun. I'm going to be giving you little assignments to do every day. And we have a special Facebook group that we're doing it in. And so we'll have little challenges and you post the answers to the challenge and then you get into a drawing for a prize every day.
And you can win prizes.
You can win prizes. And we're even going to have a grand prize winner. Yeah. Yay. It's so much fun. Yeah. So if you're ready, just head over to journeybeyondweightloss.com/challenge to sign up. And even if you're not ready, go ahead and sign up anyway, because by next week you will be ready.
Yep, do it anyway. Exactly. Just I want so many people to join because I don't want to do this alone.
No, you're not.
Come do this with me.
Yeah, it'll be a blast. So you have to sign up because you need to get into the Facebook group and you need to get the daily emails and you'll get admission to the Facebook group. So I'm going to be broadcasting the videos live. So we'll have all kinds of, you can ask questions too. You can put a comment in on the video and ask questions and I'll answer the questions live. So
you'll get your opportunity to see Dr. Angela live.
Yeah, live. So Yay. I'm super excited for this because we always have so much fun doing these challenges and people are blown away by what they learn. So super exciting. So everyone, let's give ourselves the best possible Christmas gift we could give ourselves this holiday season and into the new year. And that is excellent cardiometabolic health. So join us at journeybeyondweightloss.com/challenge. And we will see you in the challenge next week. So I hope that everyone has a really happy holiday, whatever holiday you might be celebrating this season. Enjoy it. Enjoy the time with your family. And we'll see you all next week.
Okay. Goodbye, everybody. Happy holidays.
Bye. Take care, everyone.
Hey, if you really want to lose weight and keep it off for good, your next step is to sign up for Dr. Angela's free weight loss course, where you're going to learn everything you need to get started on your weight loss journey the right way. Just head over to journeybeyondweightloss.com/free course to sign up. Also, it would be awesome if you could take a few moments and write a review on iTunes. Thanks, and we'll see you in Journey Beyond Weight Loss.